We're back here on the Yaffee program. You know, I promise you that I'm a voice of reason in a world that is sometimes beyond reason. What this three-judge panel just said, dealing with the redistricting maps in Alabama, is pretty beyond reason. I'm sorry. I can't imagine that this stays in place. Let me give you the latest here. It's breaking news this morning. I'm going to read this from Politico. It says federal court blocks Alabama's midterm gerrymandering plan, which they say is a blow for Republicans. So a federal court on Tuesday blocked Alabama Republicans from implementing their preferred House map ahead of this year's midterms, potentially preventing Republicans from picking up an additional seat via gerrymandering. Now, following the Supreme Court's Voting Rights Act ruling earlier this year, Alabama sought to revert to a 2023 map. You remember Steve Marshall put out an emergency injunction, everything else, with only one Democratic-leaning district that had previously been blocked in court. But, a three-judge panel Tuesday prevented the state from using that map, mandating that Alabama use a map that has two majority black, blue-leaning seats. Now, you have to remember that even the newest map that they just changed from before had one majority black district and one that was on the edge of that. But this is what the court wrote, the panel wrote in their decision. Ultimately, we cannot see our way clear to requiring Alabamians to cast their votes in a 2026 election under a districting plan tainted by international race-based discrimination, intentional race-based discrimination. They're totally just going against what the Supreme Court said and what's actually going on here. Somebody explain this to me. If you're a legal expert or something, tell me how this can even work. So Republicans are likely to appeal the decision, sending it back to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court earlier this month allowed Alabama to proceed with redistricting, kicking the process back down to the lower court. Now, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised because we already knew that this three-judge panel, we already knew that they were wanting another Democrat in Alabama. But I thought maybe they would say, well, we disagree with this, but the Supreme Court is, supreme. But no, that's not what they're doing. They're going against what obviously was the precedent set here by the Supreme Court. So if I would have to guess, the Supreme Court will weigh in and allow Alabama to do this. And I think that will happen pretty quickly. But this is just insane. And just so you know, this three-judge panel is intentionally getting it wrong. Let me read what they said again here. It said, ultimately, we cannot see our way clear to requiring Alabamians to cast their votes in the 2026 elections under a districting plan tainted by intentional race-based discrimination. That is not true. That's not what's happening. What the judge panel here is doing is race-based discrimination. They are telling Alabama to draw districts based solely on race, which is against what the Supreme Court said. So the Republicans came back and they said, no, we're going to draw it based on what we believe are communities of interest and to, yes, help our party because that is allowed. As Democrats have been doing it for years in their states. So the three-judge panel is just ignoring the Supreme Court ruling, ignoring the words of the legislature, and going back because they just feel like they're morally superior in this. I would assume, I don't know them. I don't know the judges personally or anything like that. But I would almost guess that they know the Supreme Court's going to overturn this, but they want a virtue signal. So much of our politics today is just virtue signaling. So you have these three judges here who are probably left-wing, who probably like that they forced another Democrat seat, who probably believe in what Terry Sewell says or AOC says about this. And they probably, They have to know that the Supreme Court's going to overturn this. So they're intentionally going against what the Supreme Court said here in order to virtue signal to say that Republicans are racist. That's what this judge panel just said in their ruling. This 3-judge panel just claimed that Alabama Republicans are racist in their maps, and they can't change it in that way. And they're basically saying, without saying it, I'm reading between the lines here, but they're basically saying here that the Supreme Court is racist and wrong, and they're just going to go against it. That's what this means here. So I wonder if this could last. As I just said, they're going to appeal this to the Supreme Court pretty soon here. I'm guessing the Supreme Court's going to side with the state of Alabama because we've already gone through all of this. Why would they change it now? So there you go. That is the breaking news. If you missed it, if you're just joining me one more time, the federal court today blocked Alabama's midterm gerrymandering plan. Some are calling it a blow for Republicans. But as I mentioned, I think the Supreme Court will go against this. All right, coming up next, we have much more to get to. We have What's Trending with Bugsy, the Yaffee program Rewind to end the show. You're listening to the Yaffee program. Back in just a moment.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada?
Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
My name is Megan Klingenberg. I was a professional soccer player for over 10 years, and like most players, I gotta be honest, I have some baggage when it comes to referees. I wanted to know, who are these refs? What kind of person gives up their weekend to call fouls and hand out cards? Why do they do it? So this time on the U.S. Soccer Podcast, I'm going to referee camp. The U.S. Soccer Podcast presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Hammer Alley Podcast, an 80s flashback mockumentary.
Back in the 80s, there were 1,000 bands trying to make it in the world of rock, but there was one band that had it all, Hammer Alley.
Whatever happened to Hammer Alley?
How did they go from Top of the Rock?
I'm looking for a music video. They're a band from 1987, Hammer Alley. Ever heard of them?
To rock bottom.
Dude, I was born in 1987.
Oh.
I can't believe he's doing this.
Hammer Alley.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.